It started with a loud knock on my door one hot afternoon, and a smug woman holding a clipboard. She claimed to be from the HOA, demanding my pool keys because I had violated community rules. But the next part stunned me. She'd brought her cop husband to intimidate me. They thought they could bully me into silence, waving authority like a weapon. What they didn't know was that I wasn't just another homeowner. I had something they never expected, something that would turn their little power trip into a federal nightmare. How far will an HOA go when they think no one can stop them? Drop your location in comment. Let's see how far this story reaches around the world. Life in our quiet little community was supposed to be peaceful. I had just moved in a few years ago, drawn by the manicured lawns, the white picket fences, and the sense of neighborly camaraderie. My days were routine. Morning coffee on the patio, weekend swims in my backyard pool, evenings filled with laughter and quiet relaxation. I took pride in my home, keeping everything neat, respecting the neighborhood's rules, or at least I thought I did. That was before Karen moved in. She had the kind of presence that made every eye in the street twitch nervously. The type of neighbor who memorized every HOA regulation and every minor rule and carried them around like a weapon. At first, it was little things. Complaints about a slightly overgrown bush, a door painted the wrong shade, and pool towels left on the fence. Annoying, sure, but I shrugged them off. But the warning signs were there, subtle yet unnerving. She had a habit of showing up unannounced, clipboard in hand, staring as if measuring every inch of my property. And then there was her husband, the local cop, who always seemed to appear wherever she went, a silent enforcer of her meticulous rules. Something about them didn't sit right with me, but I had no idea how quickly their pettiness would escalate into something far more audacious, something that would test the limits of patience, authority, and law. Little did I know. The conflict wasn't just about rules or HOA paperwork. It was about power, control, and underestimating the wrong person. And when Karen finally decided to act, she set in motion a chain of events that would turn an ordinary neighborhood disagreement into a confrontation she would never forget. After the initial knock on the door, the tension didn't just fade, it spiraled. Karen started sending official-looking letters stapled to my front door, each one more ridiculous than the last. One demanded I remove my backyard furniture because it supposedly violated community aesthetic standards. Another fined me for leaving my pool gate open, citing a clause no one had ever enforced. Every note was signed with the same smug flourish, a reminder that she thought herself the ultimate authority. Her husband started showing up at odd hours, lingering in the driveway, under the guise of neighborhood safety checks. It was subtle intimidation, but enough to make my skin crawl. I tried reasoning, explaining politely that my pool area met all the safety standards. Karen simply shook her head, as if logic and legality were meaningless in her world. Soon, petty disputes escalated into open harassment. My neighbors whispered about the FBI guy next door, wondering if I'd cave under pressure. Karen, seemingly empowered by her husband's badge, began calling HOA meetings to publicly criticize my compliance, or lack thereof, with trivial rules. One meeting, she accused me of unauthorized landscaping because my garden gnomes were not evenly spaced. The room fell silent as everyone waited for me to respond. I smiled politely and said nothing, watching her frustration grow. The tension peaked when she showed up at my pool gate unannounced, demanding my keys. "I need access to ensure compliance," she said, eyes sharp, clipboard in hand. But she didn't anticipate my response or my capabilities. What she didn't know was that I had federal clearance, and more than just authority, I had experience in handling manipulative people. Still, I let her think she had the upper hand. The power struggle escalated. HOA fines doubled, anonymous complaints were filed, and neighbors started taking sides. Each day felt like a chess game where every move was scrutinized. And one misstep could cost me far more than a fine. It could cost my peace of mind, my reputation, or worse. Just when I thought the harassment had reached its peak, Karen took things one step further. She enlisted her husband in a bold, brazen move, attempting to seize control of my pool keys physically. They showed up expecting fear or compliance. Instead, they walked into a situation they could never have imagined as Karen's arrogance grew, so did my strategy. Every action she took, every attempt to intimidate, only tightened the web I was preparing. The conflict had become a high-stakes game, and the neighborhood watched silently, unsure who would break first. And that's when it happened, the moment that would make everything escalate toward a confrontation. Neither Karen nor her husband could ignore. The day of reckoning arrived on an unusually hot afternoon. Karen and her husband marched to my gate, clipboard in hand, expecting compliance, expecting fear. But this time I didn't greet them with politeness or hesitation. I met them with calm confidence, a quiet smile that unnerved them immediately. Karen demanded the pool keys again, her voice sharp, echoing authority. Her husband hovered behind her, badge glinting in the sun, ready to intimidate. But she had misjudged me completely. What she didn't know, and what her smug overconfidence had blinded her to, was that I wasn't just a homeowner. I was trained to handle manipulative, aggressive people. Every intimidation tactic she and her husband had rehearsed failed before. I even spoke. I explained clearly and without raising my voice that any attempt to seize my property without proper legal authority would constitute federal interference. Her eyes widened, her smug expression faltering. Suddenly, the tables had turned. Neighbors peered from windows and lawns, sensing the shift in power. Karen's small empire of intimidation, built on petty rules and her husband's badge, was crumbling in real time. Desperate, she tried to escalate threats, raised voices, and frantic gestures, but every move only highlighted her audacity and exposed her ignorance. Her husband's rigid posture wavered as I calmly outlined the legal and professional consequences of overstepping boundaries. It was a high-stakes standoff, tension crackling in the air like a live wire. The absurdity of the situation almost surreal. And then, with one decisive statement, I ended it. Not with violence, not with anger, but with a final, unshakable declaration of authority that left Karen flustered, her husband speechless, and the neighborhood stunned. For the first time, they realized their little power game had met its match. Karen's aura of dominance collapsed in seconds, replaced by confusion and fear. She had thought she could control me, intimidate me, and bend rules to her will. Instead, she had walked straight into a confrontation that would leave her reputation in tatters and her control nullified. As they retreated, murmurs rippled through the street. Everyone watching understood. The balance of power had shifted, and no petty rule or badge could mask the reality anymore. And yet, even as Karen and her husband disappeared from sight, a lingering question hung in the air, one that would shape the final outcome and leave the neighborhood buzzing for weeks to come. After the showdown, the neighborhood seemed to exhale. Karen and her husband retreated, embarrassed, leaving whispers and shocked glances behind. Neighbors who once avoided conflict now approached with nods, smiles, and quiet support. Her intimidation tactics had spectacularly backfired, and her husband kept his distance. Reconsidering the line between duty and bias, the HOA began reviewing procedures, acknowledging the absurdity of the situation. Every fine Karen issued was rescinded, and the board quietly apologized. Neighbors shared their own stories, sparking community awareness and conversation about fairness, respect, and boundaries. Karen's defeat became a lesson in accountability. Life returned to normal. The pool was open, children played, and petty enforcement ceased. I reflected on the ordeal, realizing that knowledge, patience, and calm resolve can stop entitlement in its tracks. The neighborhood learned that rules are for order, not ego, and true strength lies in standing firm while staying composed. If you enjoyed this wild HOA showdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more unbelievable neighborhood stories, and share it with friends who love drama, justice, and real-life revenge stories. Your support helps us bring more jaw-dropping HOA battles to life.